Hey everybody, Movie Review Next Door here, and I'm back with another review. And this time, I am continuing the Shaft series with Shaft 2000. This is a crime film from director John Singleton, and it stars. Uh, there you go. And it stars Samuel Jackson, Vanessa Williams, Jeffrey Wright, Christian Bale, Busta Rhymes, Dan Hedaya, Toni Collette, and Richard Roundtree. So, in this film, New York Police Detective John Shaft arrests Walter Wade Jr. for a racially motivated slaying, but the only eyewitness disappears and Wade jumps bail for Switzerland. 2 years later, Wade returns to face trial, confident his money and influence will get him acquitted, especially since he's paid a drug kingpin to kill the witness. So, what did I think of Shaft 2000? Well, here's the thing. I don't think I'd ever watch this movie again. I don't think I'd have a reason to because a lot of the stuff that's been done in here has been done in other films a lot better. The main thing holding this film down is its racial politics and its very, very terrible writing for its main villain in Christian Bale or Walter Jr. Because it's one of those movies. Just a second while I mute something. It's one of those movies where the villain, yeah, they want you to know that he's racist and they want you to know quick and easy, so they have him rattle off terms in the first scene he's in so that they don't have to develop the character anymore. But the thing that saves this film is Samuel Jackson. There's three things, or few things. Samuel Jackson, uh, John Shaft Jr. There's the music for the most part, the action, and that the film doesn't. Sorry, something keeps playing. But yeah, it's watchable and half decent because of a few things. That's what I'll say. But let me get to the cast. Samuel Jackson as John Shaft. I think he does a pretty great job playing this role. He is descendant of the original John Shaft, who I guess is supposed to be his uncle, but and he does appear Richard Roundtree, which I'll give them that. That was a really cool thing to do, even if he's not in the film that much. Samuel Jackson is an actor that I think he's a bit overrated, but here I think his style of kind of witty, kind of dickishness in a lot of his characters works for this character. And he came off a bit more interesting and more fun to watch than the original Shaft, to me at least. Uh, Vanessa Williams plays Karma Vasquez, who's Shaft's old partner, I guess, because he ends up leaving the police and becoming a private investigator, or just going out on his own to get this Walter Wade guy. Um, she doesn't get a ton to do. I was hoping that she'd be more of a partner character. She helps Shaft along the way, but she doesn't really get to do too much. And I was a bit disappointed in that because I really do like Vanessa Williams, and I think she is a bit of an underrated actress. Jeffrey Wright plays Peoples Hernandez. He's kind of a secondary villain, I guess, because the main focus of the film is Walter Wade. I guess Peoples does a bit more than Walter Wade does, but they kind of work in tandem. Jeffrey Wright did a good job, I do think. He gets the accent down. He's genuinely threatening in later scenes after a certain event, and I do think it was good casting because I do like Jeffrey Wright. Um, Christian Bale as Walter Wade Jr. So this came out the same year as American Psycho, and it feels like he's doing the exact same performance, But the difference between this character and American Psycho, where he's playing Patrick Bateman, is that's a well written movie, and his character here is not well written at all. Literally, the first scene you see him in is him at a bar antagonizing a random black dude by saying, "Oh, they don't serve malt liquor here, brother." He's just yelling, and he's supposed to be drunk also. This isn't drunk. This is just somebody's really stupid parody of a racist person. And that's how I feel about a lot of films like this, like John Singleton's interpretation here of racism is really childish, to be honest. Like maybe his other films, which most of his other films focus more so on, or his famous ones like Poetic Justice and Boys in the Hood, I hope they're more realistic than this because this is just terrible writing. But his performance is okay, but the dialogue really hampers him. Busta Rhymes as Rasan, he's kind of one of Shaft's helpers. I think he did a good job. I like Busta Rhymes as an actor. Uh, I remember him from Halloween Resurrection, where he says "trick or treat, motherfucker," and I'm sorry. Even with the shitty, shitty, shitty opening of that movie, I can watch it for him because he's a lot of fun. Uh, but yeah, I do like seeing him in movies actually. Dan Hedaya plays Jack Rosselli. He's a former partner of Shaft, and then he starts working against him. He's fine. I've always had an issue with Dan Hedaya with his facial acting because he always looks shocked. He always has a face like he's just had like a terrible eye lift, like the Roger Moore eye lift when he was in A View to a Kill. It's like that one scene where he's just staring at Moneypenny like, "Hello, Moneypenny," and he just looks scary. But he's fine here. Toni Collette, as Diane Palmieri, she's a witness to the racially motivated slang at the beginning. Um, she doesn't really get to say much. For some reason, most of the movie, when she's on screen, she's not really talking. But when she does, she's doing a pretty decent Boston, I think, or New York accent. I'm not 100% sure on what accent they were going for, but it wasn't like annoying or overdone. And Richard Roundtree as Uncle John Shaft. It was nice to see him, even if his Shaft I didn't find as entertaining as this one. I do still think he's a fun actor. But here's the thing. Again, I don't think I'd ever watch this movie again. And it's not because I hate it. It's more so that I don't see a lot of rewatch value with this one, especially given that I cringed really hard at the points where they tried to get you to this is one of those films. I hear people talk about action action films all the time in the 80s and 90s had over the top bad guys where they have one scene at the beginning to fully establish that they're a villain so that they don't have to be in as much of the film. And I'm guessing for most reasons it was just, oh, the actor's too expensive, so they don't want to have them as much on screen and they can't film as much with them. I understand that. But here, the way they do it here is just so fucking lazy because, as I've always said, the way racism is portrayed in a lot of media, especially film and television, is really lazy in that these people are so like John Singleton is a black man. I understand that, and I understand the whole point is that he wants to make an empowering film for black people and showing that, oh yeah, you can be a black cop and be fighting for your people, that type of thing. I understand what he's trying to do here, but he's also repeating the same mistakes that the original Shaft did. Now, I can forgive the original Shaft movie, the first couple, for their more racial take on it, on this type of story, because they weren't the best of writers when they started out. these people were basically beginners when they wrote the original Shaft and Shaft's Big Score. So I can kind of forgive the kind of shoddy writing in those earlier films because they're just starting out and they don't know yet how to make it a bit more, I don't know, so it doesn't stand out as much. So they're not literally saying, "Oh, white people bad, black people good," that whole thing. They can actually make it so, "Oh, there's some bad on both sides," which is how it is in real life. But this film is somehow doubled down on that in some respects. Now, this film doesn't go to the lengths of all black people are good, all white people are bad, but it does have some really stupid stereotype of white people. And I'm not saying it's racist against white people or anything. I'm not going to go that far. But if even if I did, it is valid because there is racism against white people. Acting like there isn't is stupid. But the way that a lot of white characters are written in this is very unrealistic. I'm not saying I speak for all white people, but there's like literally a cop character. I forgot what the fuck his name was. Who's played by Lee Tergesen. Uh, Luger. He like comes in calling a black dude cornbread, and I'm like, white people don't talk like that. They don't fucking talk like that. Don't do this. Don't do this stupid race baiting bullshit. And again, the introduction of Christian Bale's character is literally him saying to the black guy who's like on a date. I think what they were insinuating with this, because they have a white girl and the black dude like what looks like on a date, and she kept saying her friend. I don't know if they were implying that she's racist because she doesn't want to admit that's her boyfriend. I think what it more was that she didn't realize that she loved him or something, but they never really go back to it. She kind of disappears from the film after this. But um my real issue here is just they have somebody like Christian Bale, who is a really, really, really good actor. Even though I like American Psycho, I wouldn't consider it a classic for me. It's not for me. I think there's too many issues with it. I think it's really far up its own ass at many times. But the thing about his performance here, again, it's not that he's giving the worst performance ever. It's that the dialogue he's given doesn't give him anything to work with. Where it's literally, I can reenact the scene right now. He doesn't say any racial slurs, but he's literally like cornbread. Oh, they don't have any malt liquor. Colt 45s. Um, stupid wop, that kind of shit. And I know wop is an Italian thing, but still. He's basically doing that, and I will admit it was kind of funny. The black dude like cuts holes in a napkin that he has at his table uh, he with his like knife, and he cuts holes and he puts it over Christian Bale's face, and that's what and to KKK joke. I will admit that was kind of funny, but it then leads to him getting clocked in the head and killed. Um, but I think what could you could have made this guy a lot more menacing if he was again a bit more subtle and a bit more. If you leaned more into Christian Bale's ability to be menacing, it would have helped this tenfold. Because Christian Bale can be very menacing. He has shown that before. In American Psycho, I think he is very menacing. And this is the same year, so he should have he could have literally played the same character again, just have him be slightly a bit toned down because the way they have him acting here doesn't work and the way they've written him doesn't work. But the other issue I have with this film, it's not it's not that it's poorly paced. It's that it feels like it's trying to emulate the pace of the original too far or too closely. It isn't as poorly paced as the first though. It I don't think any of the films will ever get to the pacing of the first because I am going to watch the next one because it's the last one and I actually half enjoyed this one. So, hopefully I like it. But The You could have used an action scene or two in the first half. I don't know, throw one in, make the pace a bit better. But I can actually get to the good now. Samuel Jackson plays the character well. I do really like him as John Shaft Jr., um, or just John Shaft. And I feel he was the right choice. He can actually bring some much needed comedy to this character. And this film, from what I hear, the next film in the series goes straight up comedy at many points. This film doesn't go do that. It doesn't jump the shark like that. Um, it's got little sprinklings of comedy like in the first, but I think the comedy sticks here a bit better. I think John Singleton knows how to write comedy, even though he's usually more of a serious writer and director, or he knows how to direct actors for comedy. Um, and I think that Samuel Jackson does a pretty good job in the action scenes. I think he has experience in this, so he knows what to do. Like he was in Pulp Fiction, he was in Glorious Bastards, um, Django Unchained, Goodfellas. He's been in a lot that where he has experience in this kind of stuff. Um, s- so it works for him. Another thing is the music. The music is by David, the score is from David Arnold, who worked on the later James Bond films from, I think Tomorrow Never Dies up until Quantum of Solace, I think. But he was kind of the newer composer because they didn't like what Eric Serra did on Goldeneye, which that might be my favorite James Bond like film soundtrack or one of them, but it's definitely underrated for me. But here, I think he actually gave a bit of a nice touch to the music that he would have put in a Bond film as well. Because again, a lot of people say Shaft in Africa is less of a Shaft film and more of a James Bond knockoff, which, to be honest, I actually really, really enjoyed Shaft in Africa. So I kind of liked the change of pace from just being a crime movie with over the top racial politics at random points to just a fun adventure film set in Africa. Some beautiful shots in that movie too. But here it's kind of like the original Shaft's score, but it kind of tones it down at certain points because the original film, I know it was a 1.0 audio track, and maybe I didn't get the best experience. I don't. The only way I think I could get a better audio track is with the Criterion Collection, and I don't really want to buy the film on Criterion, even if Shaft's big score comes with it. But the score got really ear rapey at times. It was like really high pitched at times, the synthesizer shit. And here he does tone that down a bit. He also has some songs that go a bit too over the top, but for the most part, I think he modernized the score of the original pretty well, especially the title theme, because I think he made it flow a bit better. The way that the girls sing Shaft seems a bit toned down, but not so much that it's boring. It's toned down so that it's not as ear blasty when they say it. And I do think he's made some genuine improvements here. The action scenes. The action scenes are very well done. They are all practical, which is what I love to see. This is 2000. This was when people were starting to use more and more CGI. Maybe it wasn't as prevalent as it is today, but they were starting to use it. And again, it's nothing extravagant. There's some bits where he shoots through a window and hits a guy and then he falls over. There's a car crash that's pretty decent. Um, there's a pretty nice standoff near the end that I thought was fun. Um, Again, it's not going to beat anything from PM Entertainment or a lot of Millennium films, even Canon especially, but it's still fun, and I liked that the film tried to mix things up a bit. Um, but yeah, like overall, I don't. Again, the main thing holding this film back is the way it goes about the racial politics of everything. But there's enough stuff outside of that that kind of distracted me from the bad writing at times that made it enjoyable to me. And hopefully, in Shaft 2019, or excuse me, yeah, 2019. Hopefully, they've improved certain things. It is the lowest rated of all of them, but I guess we'll see. But yeah, that was my review of Shaft 2000. If you've seen the film, let me know in the comments what you thought. If you have any recommendations, put those in the comments as well. And movie reviewer next door